All right. Wife of Bath round two. So our rapist knight has returned, and he basically told the queen that, women want their own sovereignty. They want to be leaders. They want to be in charge. That's what they really want. And all the ladies agree, right? Maid, wife, and widow cried. He saved his life. They all agree with him that is what women truly want. And on the word up started the wife.
I need all JV cheers.
Sorry about that. Okay. And on the word up started the old wife, the one the knight saw sitting on the green, and cried, "Your mercy, sovereign lady queen, before the curse disperses, do me right. 'Twas I who taught this answer to the knight, for which he swore and pledged his honor to it, that the first thing I asked of him, he'd do it, so far as it should lie within his might. Before this court, I ask you then, sir knight, to keep your word and take me for your wife, for well you know that I have saved your life. If this be false, deny it on your sword." All right. So if we recall, the knight promised the old lady, if you can save me, you can tell me what it is that women want, I will do whatever you ask of me. The first thing that you ask of me, I will do it. And she's like, marry me. So now he might have to marry this old lady, which I'm sure he's not going to want to do. "Alas," he said, "old lady, by the Lord, I know indeed that such was my behest, but for God's love, think of a new request. Take all my goods, but leave my body free." He knows she just wants him for his body. "A curse on us," she said, "if I agree. I may be foul, I may be poor and old, yet wilt not choose to be, for all the gold that's bedded in the earth or lies above, less than your wife, nay, than your very love." So she's like, hey, I'm old, I'm poor, I'm not very pretty, but this is what I want, and I saved your life. So you don't have to just marry me, you have to love me. "My love," said he, "by heaven, my damnation, alas that any of my race and station should ever make so foul a misalliance. Yet in the end his pleading and defiance all went for nothing. He was forced to wed, he takes his ancient wife and goes to bed." So basically here when he's talking about his race and station, he's like, listen, I'm rich, I'm important, I'm a knight. I can't make such a crappy marriage. I'm supposed to marry some young pretty thing, and this is what you're doing to me. "Now peradventure some may well suspect a lack of care in me, since I neglect to tell of the rejoicing and display made at the feast upon their wedding day. I have but a short answer to let fall. I say there was no joy or feast at all. Nothing but heaviness of heart and sorrow. He married her in private on the morrow, and all day long stayed hidden like an owl. It was such torture that his wife looked foul." So here she's speaking to the pilgrims, right? She's saying that, you might say that I'm messing up my story because I'm not telling you about the wedding day and how awesome it was, but that's because there really wasn't a wedding day. It was quiet. He married her in private, and he stays. He's hiding away, and is so sad because his wife is ugly. So she's kind of bringing them into the story a little bit. "Great was the anguish churning in his head when he and she were piloted to bed. He wallowed back and forth in desperate style. His ancient wife lay smiling all the while. At last she said, 'Bless us, is this, my dear, how knights and wives get on together here? Are these the laws of good King Arthur's house? Are knights of his also contemptuous? I am your own beloved and your wife, and I am she indeed that saved your life. And certainly I never did you wrong. Then why this first of nights so sad a song? You're carrying on as if you were half-witted. Say, for God's love, what sin have I committed? I'll put things right if you will tell me how.'" And basically she's saying, in the Middle Ages, the wedding party would have been like taken to bed by the wedding party. Like all these people would have escorted the bride and groom to their bedchamber, because they were excited they were going to get it on, I guess. So she's like, is this how this goes? Is this what it's always going to be like? You're going to lay there being mad? And she's like, "I saved your life. I'm your wife. Why are you being so sad? Is it because you're dumb? Is it because I've committed some sort of sin? What's going on? Tell me how I can fix this." "Put right," he cried. "That can never be now. Nothing can ever be put right again. You're old and so abominably plain, so poor to start with, so low bred to follow. It's little wonder if I twist and wallow. God, that my heart would burst within my breast." "Is that," said she, "the cause of your unrest?" "Yes, certainly," he said, "and can you wonder?" I could set right what you suppose a blunder. That's if I cared to, in a day or two, if I were shown more courtesy by you. Just now, she said, you spoke of gentle birth, such as descends from ancient wealth and worth. If that's the claim you make for gentlemen, such arrogance is hardly worth a hen. Whoever loves to work for virtuous ends, public and private, and who most intends to do what deeds of gentleness he can, take him to be the greatest gentleman. All right, so she's going to break down a couple of things, a couple of arguments here, right? So he talks about that she's old and that she's ugly. He talks about that she's low bred and that she's poor. So he's upset, right? These are all the issues. So she's going to kind of take her arguments one by one. And she's starting with this idea of gentle birth. So this fact that he is of a higher station, okay? And basically she's saying that whoever loves to work for virtuous ends, public and private, and who most intends to do what deeds of gentleness he can, take him to be the greatest gentleman. Doing good deeds is what makes you a good man, not how you're born. And that's her whole argument. You can be the highest born person on the planet, but if you don't do good deeds for people, then you are not a virtuous man and you're not a gentleman. Christ wills we take our gentleness from him, not from a wealth of ancestry long dim, though they bequeath their whole establishment, by which we claim to be of high descent. Our fathers cannot make us a bequest of all those virtues that become them best, and earn for them the name of gentlemen, but bade us follow them as best we can. Thus, the wise poet of the Florentines, Dante by his name, has written in these lines, for such is the opinion Dante launches, seldom arises by these slender branches, prowess of men, for it is God no less, wills us to claim of him our gentleness. For of our parents nothing can we claim, save temporal things, and these may hurt and maim. But everyone knows this as well as I, for if gentility were implanted by the natural course of lineage down the line, public or private, could it cease to shine in doing fair work of gentle deed? No vice or villainy could then bear seed. So she's basically saying that if your noble person, your gentleness, your nobleness were passed down by your lineage, then we would never have any cruelty amongst people. That are high-bred, when obviously those that are high-bred are capable of kind of horrible cruelty. Take fire and carry it to the darkest house between this kingdom and the Caucasus, and shut the doors on it and leave it there. It will burn on, and it will burn as fair as if 10,000 men were there to see. For fire will keep its nature and degree, I can assure you, sir, until it dies. But gentleness, as you will recognize, is not annexed in nature to possessions. Men fail in living up to their professions, but fire never ceases to be fire. So she's saying that a fire will burn whether you look at it or not, but people tend to be a little bit more performative, that they'll do certain things if people are watching them, and then if in private, they might do something a little bit different. God knows you'll often find, if you inquire, some lording full of villainy and shame. If you would be esteemed for the mere name of having been by birth a gentleman, and stemming from some virtuous noble clan, and do not live yourself by gentle deed, or take your father's noble code and creed, you are no gentleman, though duke or earl. Vice and bad manners are what make a churl. So you're low class if you act low class. You're high class if you act high class. It has nothing to do with your lineage. It has nothing to do with how you were born. It has nothing of any of those. Gentility is only the renown for bounty that which your fathers handed down. Quite foreign to your person, not your own. Gentility must come from God alone. That we are gentle comes to us by grace, and by no means is it bequeathed with place, right? We're nice because we choose to be nice. It has nothing to do with how we're born. Reflect how noble, says Valerius, was Tullus, surnamed Hostilius, who rose from poverty to nobleness, and read Boethius, Seneca no less. Thus they express themselves and are agreed, gentle is he that does a gentle deed. And therefore, my dear husband, I conclude that even if my ancestors were rude, yet God on high, and so I hope he will, can grant me grace to live in virtue still, a gentlewoman only when beginning to live in virtue and shrink from sinning. She's like, listen, all of these philosophers agree that gentle is he that does a gentle deed. So you are noble if you do noble things. It has nothing to do with how you're born. She sees that it doesn't matter that my ancestors were low born, rude. All that matters is that I'm a good person. As for my poverty, which you reprove, so this is her second argument. Almighty God himself, in whom we move, believe, and have our being, chose a life of poverty, and every man or wife, nay, every child can see our heavenly King, would never stoop to choose a shameful thing, right? So he's upset that she's poor, and she's like, God takes a vow of poverty, okay? Christ lived a humble, impoverished life, and nobody would ever say that he was shameful, so how am I shameful? No shame in poverty if heart is gay, as Seneca and all the learned say. He who accepts his poverty unhurt, I'd say, is rich, although he lacked a shirt. But truly poor are they who whine and fret and covet what they cannot get. And he that having nothing covets not is rich, though you may think he is a sot. True poverty can find a song to sing. Juvenal says a pleasant little thing. The poor can dance and sing in the relief of having nothing that will tempt a thief. Though it be hateful, poverty is good, a great incentive to a livelihood, and a great help to our capacity for wisdom, if accepted patiently. So she's like, it's hard to be poor, but it can lead to greatness, right? It can lead to a greater capacity for wisdom and for patience. And you know, you can, if you accept what you are, then you can live a happy life. Okay, she says, truly poor are those who whine and fret and covet what they cannot hope to get. And he that having nothing covets not is rich, although you may think he's not. So coveting means that you want it for yourself, right? So if you can just accept what's going on, if you have nothing but you don't covet anything, then you have a rich life. If you have stuff but you want the other stuff that you can't get, then you're not living a full life. All you're doing is wanting material things. Poverty is, though wanting in estate, a kind of wealth that none can calumniate. Poverty often, when the heart is lowly, brings one to God and teaches what is holy, gives knowledge of oneself, and even lends a glass by which to see one's truest friends. And since it's no offense, let me be plain. Do not rebuke my poverty again. So we've taken care of the fact that she's lowborn. She's now taken care of the fact that she's poor. And that's a pretty strong statement there at the end. Do not rebuke my poverty again. Right? That has nothing to do with who I am as a person. Really, it's about being with God. Okay, that's what's really important. And when she talks about it, even lends a glass by which to see one's truest friends. She's saying that, you know, people don't lie to you when you're poor, whereas when you're rich, people might pretend that they like you more than they really do to try and get that going. Lastly, you taxed me, sir, with being old. Yet even if you had never been told by ancient books, you gentlemen engage yourselves in honor to respect old age. To call an old man father shows good breeding, and this could be supported from my reading. You say I'm old and fouler than a fen. You need not fear to be a cuckold then. Filth and old age, I'm sure you will agree, are powerful wardens over chastity. Nevertheless, well knowing your delights, I shall fulfill your worldly appetites. So this is super entertaining to me, actually. So a cuckold is a guy who gets cheated on, right? His wife, you know, runs about with another man. And she's saying, since I'm old and I'm ugly, then no one else is going to try and bang me. So you don't have to worry about being made a cuckold, right? She said, are powerful wardens over chastity. Okay. And then she's also saying, because she's old, she's been around. So she knows what men like. Well knowing your delights, I shall fulfill your worldly appetites. She's like, hey, I can make you feel good. So, you know, don't be too pissy about this. You have two choices. Which one will you try? To have me old and ugly till I die, but still a loyal, true, and humble wife that never will displease you all her life? Or would you rather I were young and pretty and chance your arm what happens in a city where friends will visit you because of me? Yes, and in other places too, maybe. Which would you have? The choice is all your own. So she gives him two choices. I can be old and ugly, but I will be loyal, true, and humble, and I will take care of you for the rest of your life. Or I can be young and pretty, and you have to run the risk that, you know, I might have a dalliance with another man. My eyes may wander. Those are your choices. The knight thought long, and with a piteous groan, at last he said, with all the care in life, my lady and my love, my dearest wife, I leave the matter to your wise decision. You make the choice yourself for the provision of what may be agreeable and rich, in honor to us both. I don't care which. Whatever pleases you suffices me. So this rapist knight has obviously learned something, which is, you say what women want is that they want to make the decisions. They want agency. They want to make choices. They want to make moves. So he abides by what saved his life, and he says, "You choose. What do you want? I will take whatever. You can be old and ugly, or you can be pretty. Whatever. You choose." "And have I won the mastery," said she, "since I am to choose and rule as I think fit?" "Certainly, wife," he answered. "That's it." "Kiss me," she cried, "no quarrels. On my oath and word of honor, you shall find me both. That is, both fair and faithful as a wife. May I go howling mad and take my life, unless I prove to be as good and true as ever wife was since the world was new. And if tomorrow, when the sun's above, I seem less fair than any lady love, than any queen or empress, east or west, do with my life and death as you think best. Cast up the curtain, husband. Look at me." So she's saying, you can have both. I will be both beautiful and humble and loyal and all those things. And if you look at me in the sun and you think I'm less pretty than these other women, then you can kill me. And when indeed the knight had looked to see, lo, she was young and lovely, rich in charms. In ecstasy he caught her in his arms, his heart went bathing in a bath of blisses, and melted in 100,000 kisses. And she responded in the fullest measure, with all that could delight or give him pleasure. So they lived ever after to the end in perfect bliss, and may Christ Jesus send us husbands meek and young and fresh in bed, and grace to overbid them when we wed. And Jesu, hear my prayer, cut short the lives of those who won't be governed by their wives, and all old angry niggards of their pence, God send them soon a very pestilence. Okay, so basically she's saying that women need men that are meek, that will listen to what their wives say, and who won't control them or control the strings or anything like that. And those guys need to just die of some sort of illness, and instead leave us all the nice young boys who will just do what we ladies say. All right. So that's the Wife of Bath's tale. We're going to be reading the Partner's Tale next, which is substantially different, but hopefully you like it as well. Okay. Let me know if you guys need anything.